we're gonna continue our discussion about the Nickelodeon on the set documentary, the HBO Max. And it was just a situation where you saw all these cute little shows, young shows. If you had children like my daughter at the time, we watched a lot of this stuff, and I mean, there was just another flip side of stuff that was going on behind the scenes that we just didn't know. And that's the tragedy of this industry. We always talk about how these child stars grow up and have all these problems and stuff like this. This is one of the situations where the being the child star, they were having all these problems as a child star. So it's a tragic situation. But I know you had some notes and all type of stuff on this, Brother Walk. You want to get into that now? You want to come back to you?
I mean, just same old stuff. It was kind of disgusting to watch. I did more research in the back and seeing a lot of things that they was doing. It was a lot of racism too. There was real racist to the young black kids. And I don't get how you just drop your kid off on the set of a movie or a set of a show just to, like, oh, he's going to be a star. I'll be back. I'll pick you up when he's done. I wouldn't leave the set. I'm not leaving. I'm not going nowhere. And then they had a lot of instances with that certain young lady. I forget her name. Amanda Bynes?
Yes.
Is that her name?
Yep. Amanda Bynes. Yeah.
Yeah. That she went through that was really kind of disgusting. He's just like, nobody was even over 18. It's like 17 years old. It's, yes, it's kind of a messed up situation. But lay the premise for the show. Like, y'all, I know y'all got more on
that. For real. So, and Amanda Bynes, this was a sister that had some further complications in her adulthood. She's had some issues, but I'm rooting for the sister. I mean, I thought she was a funny kid. I didn't watch the Grown Up show that she had because I really didn't follow TV too much. But I tend to root for people just in general, and I'm definitely rooting for her. But when you see all the stuff that goes on, especially like with Drake, I apologize. I'm pretty sure it was Drake, that one. That situation really got me worked up. Because not only did they not protect this dude, I mean, there was a lot of effort done to counter it. Because when the father was the manager, he was protecting. When something was funny, when someone's touching him, someone's talking a certain way, whatever, he was on top of it. Just like how Walk was talking about, if your kid is there, you need to be there. He had his hands in everything, and to an extent that they felt like, there goes his father inserting himself in the situation. But the bottom line is, the parent, you got to do what you got to do. Then they went and finagled his mom to be like, hey, yo, his pops is going to end up getting him, mess up his fame and his opportunity. You might want to jump in this. So they put pressure on him, and then Drake put pressure on the mama, and the mama put pressure on the father, and they basically ousted the father. And once the mother ended up being the manager, all type of hell stuff happened. He ended up leaving this dude over this suspect ass guy's house to stay overnight. And this dude was just molesting them. I mean, you're talking about, I hate to go into the details, but the worst things a man can do to a boy, that's what he was doing. And he was doing over a stretch of time. I mean, he was talking about how when he finally was hanging out with his girlfriend, he didn't want to leave. And when the dude was calling, like, hey, you need to, he's calling, he's at his girlfriend's house. And the mother's like, hey, this dude keeps calling. And he won't take the phone, and he's just calling over somebody's house, which is extremely disrespectful. But she just is like, as a mother, she's like, hold up, my instincts are going off. Is there something going on here? You need to talk about it, whatever. And I don't think he took that quite opportunity, that lifeline that she did. But I mean, ultimately it got exposed. And I mean, it was just a terrible thing. Go ahead.
That was an aware parent, and she was paying attention, and she knew the signs of somebody repeatedly calling you like they were so infatuated and obsessed with you. And she was able to catch that, and she called it out. So I must shout out to that mother. We're very glad. You got to be mindful, especially if you're watching other people's children. You got to be aware of what's going on and pay attention to your children out there.
Yeah. I really didn't see that series Quiet on the set until you guys actually talked about it. So I actually I watched a couple of episodes last week, and then it just really registered in my mind, just that whole period with Nickelodeon. Fortunately, my children weren't into Nickelodeon. And I think the most disturbing thing about me watching the series was that a lot of the content that they have was like, some extreme, pedophilia, sexual fantasies that they just were playing out right in front of the world to see. And then they did it underneath the guise that this was geared towards children. That for me was the most disturbing factor. The other points of the children being exposed on set to other pedophiles, and the things parents will do just for to make sure that they have children in the industry. I mean, we've seen this over and over again. It's not surprising to me, but it's also just really sad, just like how somebody can really just take advantage of people in such a fashion, children and adults, and just get away with it right in front of our face, and no one really being taking them to the task. We saw pedophilia, we saw racism, we even saw sexism. He wasn't even paying his women writers the same as the male writers, outright telling them that he's going to pay them half versus what he was paying the men. It was really extreme. I was so...
You're muted, brother.
I was so incredibly, happy that my children just weren't into Nickelodeon like that. Now, part of that was me being a parent and monitoring my children, but the other part of it, that just wasn't their thing. Watching program with, things oozing on top of you and holding pickles in front of you, and there's a Mr. Potato. That was like extreme. I was looking at this and I'm like, thank God I my children weren't into this. But
you bring up Vic, you bring up a great point when you talk about the sexism. What was crazy to me is he actually admitted. He told him, he said, I don't think that women are funny. And I mean, that was just crazy that you'd even be comfortable enough to even pull it. I don't remember when the Clarence Thomas thing went down and stuff like that, where people were very heightened about sexual harassment and stuff like that. You would think that this sort of like the equality watchbirds would have been on top of that type of a thing. But I mean, it was crazy. And to that dude's credit, he did a lengthy apology owning up to a lot of this stuff. Dan Schneider. But you got something to say about this, First Lady Jane?
It was heartbreaking, believe it or not. Last night I binge watched the episodes, and so I have to go with you, Mr. Nice Guy. The Drake one, that one tore me apart. It was just like so heartbreaking. The pickles got me, especially with the hole in the wall and sticking the pickle through. That was just straight perverted, X-rated. Who brings pickles that look like penises to the set for children? It got me about the women, like where they have to share their salary and they have to take it to the writer's guild about that part. That got to me as well. The black young man, I can't think of his name, but the nose and putting penises on his shoulders, knowing doggone well it doesn't look like a nose. I can't understand how parents even slept on that. And just everything you seeing is skeeting, kids with their mouth open, water squirting everywhere. It was so many different things in there. And like Vic said, I'm glad my children were not into Nickelodeon. I'm sure I would have caught some of those things and stopped my kids from watching it immediately. Just looking at the show, a lot of scenes, you can tell that they were not for children. And parents do have to be aware. You have to be your kid's biggest advocate. Unfortunately, the other kid pretty much lost his job, the black kid, because his mom was sitting up there being an advocate for him, or like, here to your mom again. Unfortunately, it may ruin their relationship, but she may have saved her child after watching all the stuff that was going on. And to me, even though Dan apologized, I don't feel like the apology was good enough.
Right. This likens to me, it's hide in plain sight. For those of us who are graphic novel readers, there's this, and the parallel with like graphic novels and possibly like children's programming. I remember, being somebody who started collecting comics, and I remember like my mother really not paying attention. She just thought it was like a cute thing. But one of the things that gets lost in a lot of people when it comes to like children's in their mind children items, that there could be some very adult themes. And for those of us who are graphic novel readers, we got into the reading, and I would say because of the fact that it was geared for initially, for children, but the themes were very adult, and we're reading it right underneath our parents' noses. Tony Stark being, a womanizer, and he's an alcoholic.
Alcoholic.
And he's an alcoholic. Batman was a womanizer. Ant-Man used to beat up his wife. And I say this, and I say this only because the guy just did that, like right in our face. Dan Snyder, just like, these are my perverted thoughts. These are my dreams. And you know what? I'm going to get away with it. You know why? Because I can. Because you're really not going to pay attention to it, because this is children programming. And let me tell you something. You got to be attentive. You got to be alert, because if you don't, something like this will actually fall underneath your nose. I mean, apology definitely would not be enough for me, for this guy. Are you kidding me?
Right.
What a great segue to what the brother was just saying, because we're talking about woke later on the show today, but there are so many who are fast asleep, because when it comes to this TV in particular, I mean, we've been knowing for a long time that the devil is sitting right in your living room, with the type of programming that's coming through. And I don't know who Dan Schneider made mad, but it must have been someone, because, Dan Schneider, he's just a small piece of the puzzle in the lives that he touched. Please forgive my pun. We take a deep dive in this industry and then TV in general, man. Wait till you get into Disney. Walt Disney and the Disney show programming that, of symbolism and even commentary that's going on right before your eyes that many parents and others, aren't conscious of and not really haven't looked at. But so hopefully this wakes some people up. The casting couch is something that's real. It's not something that was taking place just on adult, shows or whatnot, but, children's shows as well, and one of the last things I want to bring up is that, when we're talking about, racism, sexism, I'm not going to pretend like these things don't exist, but, oftentimes, what we're really seeing is just bad business. When I say bad business, as opposed to good business, because if you're doing good business, you're looking to take care of people, making sure that your consumers are okay, your employees, those, who you serve, you're looking for everyone's best interest, but when it comes to people who do bad business, it's really about their bottom line. So they can find an excuse, to, make more money, they'll go ahead and make more money. There's no doubt about that. And also, if you're looking at those who are being advocated for, oftentimes, those are the children who are going to be preyed upon, those that don't have someone in their corner. So I'm glad that, the brother, and some others really had people that was in their corner that was looking out for them, that prevented, certain situations. But there was a lot of other situations that, that were exploited because the parents turned a blind eye and allowed, some red flags to go right by their face and did not act on it.
And they were defending this cat. That's one of the things that really got me upset. It's like, okay, you find out that he's been molesting this kid and all this other stuff, and you're submitting like character letters and stuff like, for this guy. They literally were trying to reemploy him after the fact. It's just like you understand that what this did. I don't care if he's your friend or whatever. This dude was a monster, and you guys were basically a part of the process and allowing it, and definitely a part of the process of putting him in a position to do it again. So, I mean, that was extra disgusting about all of this stuff. So, I mean, it was very informative to find out. It was very heartbreaking to see, but it's just a reminder that, there are monsters out there in the world, and you, as parents, we need to protect our children at all times. That's just it.
Thank you for saying that. You basically said what I was about to say next about those letters and the Drake character. It was really heartbreaking when he looked at them and didn't look at the guy that molested him and told them, like, you guys will forever remember supporting him for feeling like he didn't do anything wrong, but he will forever remember him for all the wrong that he did to them. And I hope that resonated with them. I couldn't believe that they wrote those letters, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, that disturbed me. Hey, and that's why Brother Floyd X was mad at Keenan with his comment that he said about supporting from afar. So as not to be
Yeah,
throwing dirt on Brother Keenan, but I'm just saying.
man. Yeah, that was disturbing. I checked it out and I couldn't finish it. I was disturbed by it.